Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to do an update on our IceRiver AE0, which is that little at-home ALEO ASIC. We're going to do an update looking at overall profitability, how much has it yielded, how much is the yield going down, how much has the hash rate gone up, and kind of what to expect in the future, right? We are starting to get little clues about what to expect here. So we'll talk about it, we'll give our thoughts. So if that sounds good guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So, as kind of expected, overall profitability on all of the ALEO ASICs has been going down because we've been having the double whammy of hash rate increasing, meaning your yield is going to go down because there's no more miners on the network, and ALEO's price action kind of trickling downwards, right? So it's overall leading to just a downward trend on profitability all across the board. So for example, the IceRiver AE1 Lite is down to $16.70 a day profit. The IceRiver AE0, which is what we're going to focus on today, is down to $3.34. Again, those two big factors are what's changed. For example, when we did our initial review, which has been about a month now, it was closer to the $9-10 range, right? So overall, this isn't surprising. This is kind of what we're expecting. Realistically, probably expecting a little bit worse, although it's probably going to get a little bit worse here in the coming weeks. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let's look at the details of our little guy. So overall performance of the unit has been excellent. It's been doing what it's supposed to do. Have not had to do anything to it. It just sits there. Have not had to reboot it, do a damn thing. Overall average hash rate at the pool, right? We've been using Whale Pool. It's pretty much on par. It's anywhere from 57 to 60 megaproofs a second, which is where it should be, and that's the 24-hour average. Just keep in mind, because of the algorithm, ALEO, it's very volatile. It swings aggressively up and down. For any guys who GPU minded, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's kind of the same thing here. Just keep in mind, you want to focus on that average, specifically the 24-hour average. Okay, so overall, it's performing where it should be. Now let's look at overall yield. So far to date, we have mined almost 700, right? We're about 4 days short from it being a month. So overall, not too bad. We'll look at what that actually entails here in a second. But the biggest standout we want to look at is the yield we're getting now versus what it was before. Okay, so currently, you can see the last few daily yields. We did have one day where my internet went out, so this one was a little abnormally low. But ultimately, as of yesterday, our payout or revenue for the day was 19.94. So right around 20, which is a little bit higher than the estimate. They have the estimate down to about 17 ALEO per day. So overall, we're doing slightly better. Again, not much. The hash rate's going to vary, so that's part of it there. But what we want to focus on is what it was initially. Again, we're down to about 20 today. We go back initially, first day we're at 38, right? This day we're experimenting, we're down to 30, so around 38 to 40 those first few days. And you can just see the downtrend, right? 38, 33, down to 27, 28, 24, 26, 27, 25, 21. And overall, it's been hovering now in the 20 range. So far, it does seem like most of the AE0s are in hand, and that's why it's kind of averaged. But keep in mind, those AE1 lights now are starting to get plugged in, right? So although we did have the effects of the AE0, this is kind of where we're at now. Expect it to go down further because of that, right? So as we look at overall profitability, again, it's about 691. We plug it into a calculator at ALEO's current price being 20 cents. It's down to about 142 bucks, right? So for about a month, for an ASIC that was about $800, not too bad overall. Now, just keep in mind it's going to continue to go down, right? The key thing you're going to want to focus on here is the overall yield. And specifically for me, the goal would be those first 3 months. Realistically, these first 3 months, we're probably going to make the bulk of our rewards here, right? Specifically, it's going to be dependent on how long till that big boy comes out, which our guesstimate is kind of any time. Right, at this point, it wouldn't be surprising to see it come out sooner than later. It's really going to be dependent on whenever they want to release, right? But realistically, again, you really want to focus on what your yield is going to be these first 3 months. That's why the only appeal for me would be to get it initially right off the bat, just because that's when the time you're going to make the most yield. By the time the big boy units come on, even if ALEO's profitability goes up a lot, in terms of its price, your yield is just going to go down monumentally, right? Realistically, it's already gone down pretty drastically because as we've seen, our yield got cut in half and our kind of guesstimate was pretty much on par, right? The little guesstimates we did were with the overall hash rate doubling, and it did, right? When we did our review, it was at about 521 gigahash. We can see now it's at 1.1 terahash. So it's a little bit more than double at this point, which is kind of what we're guesstimating. But again, factor in this is prior to the AE1 lights coming on board, which I don't think a ton of people were buying them just because of the price points, but factor in it's still going to go up. So I'd expect it to go to about 1.5-ish or so, and then potentially even more so beyond that. But again, the key thing is that we want to stack as much as we can before the bigger units come on. That's where the real concern is going to be. Okay. Now, as we look at the outlook of things, this is kind of what I'm talking about, where we're getting a clue as to kind of what's coming forward. If you look at the price, some of the vendors are now listing the second batch of the AE1 Lite. We know the first one literally just started shipping now. There is a second batch that has been confirmed. They don't have it on the IceRiver site, but some of the vendors are listing it for a mid-June batch, and it goes down to $18.99 shipped. Okay, so it's reflective of the drop in profitability. Realistically, the fact that it's dropped in half, realistically, the price should probably also get chopped in half. Okay, they're essentially going from, they had it at $23.99. It was a $2,800 MSRP. So realistically, honestly, should probably be more aggressive, which there's two trains of thought. For a person who already has an ASIC, this is kind of a good thing because it's going to be less appealing. For a person who's interested in coming in, arguably still overpriced, right? Realistically, again, kind of only makes sense to get in on that first batch just because of the risk of literally any day now that big boy ASIC can get announced and can start getting released. Doesn't mean that as soon as it gets announced, it's going to start shipping that next day, right? Typically, we see a pre-order phase of about a month or so. Again, for me, the ticket is if we're able to get 3 months of pure mining prior to those big boy units plugging in, chances are we're going to make out well just because of the longevity factor. Okay, because as long as we're going to have to see the efficiency comparison specifically of the Bitmain unit. IceRiver's bigger unit, yes, it's going to be more dense, but it's probably going to be the same chips. It's just going to be in a much obviously denser form factor. Okay, the Bitmain unit though, we're going to have to see if it's similar efficiency, that's a good thing. If it's something where it's twice as efficient, not so great, especially with these heftier units, specifically like the 500 watt. Again, the advantage with things like the AE0 is that because it's only 100 watts, if you only have like one or two of those things, kind of almost regardless of what's going on, if you think ALEO's price is going to go up sometime between now and the 6 months, you might as well stay plugged in because, again, it's only 34 cents to run that thing. Okay, even if it's at a slight loss, that's the advantage. That should be kind of the mindset, right? Because unless, now, if you don't think ALEO's price is going to go up at all, you think it's going to be stuck where it's at, then obviously not the thing for you, right? It's only advantageous if you think the price of the coin you're mining is actually going to go up. And in this case, realistically, it does have a lot of potential upside. Okay, it's only a $74 million market cap, ranked number 586. Currently struggling. It's down to 20 cents or so. It was at 30 cents not too long ago. It was down to a low of under 12 cents, though. So April 7th, 8th, which was the low of this trend, it was down to 11, 12 cents. Okay, so wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to see it go down there again, right? We're going to have to wait and see just because the one downfall with ALEO, and a lot of these like hybrid, like VC proof of work kind of deals, is the inflation rate. Okay, this is what you got to understand. The FTV here, when it's a coin that has an unlimited max supply, is almost irrelevant. Okay, but when we look at its current market cap and what's fully diluted and what's circulating, when you look at what's circulating compared to the total supply, this is where it's pretty drastic, right? So 363 million are circulating, but there's a 1.7 billion total supply and then an infinite max supply, right? So it's going to be the inflation rate, it's going to be unlocks, it's going to be all those things are kind of what you have to factor in here. Okay, so it's not as simple as like most proof of work projects, which is what most of you guys are used to, but you have to understand the dynamics of these type of coins when they have these type of systems, when they're not fully like fair launched. Okay, gotta fully understand those things because again, Yes, this is the market cap now, but if there's a huge unlock here in the next couple of months or something, you gotta factor that in, right? So there's different things here, but overall though, do think there is quite a bit of upside here, even regarding those Ponzi-nomics here. So to me, it's worthwhile. Will it go up to previous all-time highs? Probably not, right? I don't see this thing going back to $7. A lot of this price had to do with the circulating supply at the time, so this is where those dynamics come in, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go back up to there, because we've seen these types of things over and over where because there's such a limited supply on launch, that's what causes prices to skyrocket and then tank not too long after. Do I think $1, $2 is realistic sometime in this bull market? Easily, right? Can it go beyond that? Sure. Will it, won't it though? We don't know, right? That's kind of the risk factor. But that's also the benefit of buying one of these things that's only 100 watts, right? At this point, you can have it plugged in, and just the plan is going to be just mine all the way through this damn thing, right? Regardless of what happens. We'll go through. If the price dips further, let's say like, oh man, it goes to 11 cents, down to a nickel, down to a penny, I'll just be DCing a little bit more, right? At this point, any coin that I'm stacking, if I'm mining it, if the plan is to hodl, which for me, I'm just going to hodl the ALEO. I'm not going to do anything with it other than just hodl it. So whenever these price points come up where it's insanely low, I'm going to be doubling down, right? Which is what I've done with everything that I mine, whether it's Caspa, Cadena, CKB, ALF, whatever it is. Whenever those prices go down, instead of sitting here bitching and moaning, I'm doubling down. Right? To me, those are obvious signs where it's good opportunity, right? So to each their own on their different strategy. But if you're going to be mining ALEO, it only makes sense if you're bullish on that project. If you're bullish on that price appreciation, because again, at the end of the day, we don't know which ASIC is going to do well. The one that does well is the coin that appreciates the most, right? So that's definitely something to factor in. And now let's talk about the biggest concern, and that's these larger units, right? We know Bitmain officially confirmed it back in October 2023 that they are working on an ALEO Antminer. We don't know when the hell this thing's going to come out, right? Just a couple things to consider here, though. Like we mentioned, typically it's not something that they announce and then 24 hours later it's shipping, right? Typically it's going to be a pre-order of at least anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, right? So even at that point, it's still buying us a little bit of time. Again, the key goal is to be able to get 3 solid months without the big units plugging in. Okay, so that's definitely going to be a threat. The other threat is going to be IceRiver's unit, right? Which is pretty much going to be a lock that at some point it's going to come down, but they're not going to release it until they necessarily have a reason to. Okay, so the longer that Bitmain holds out, the better things look for us. Okay, just because at this point we know that Gold Shell's unit, for example, is so inefficient that it's almost irrelevant, right? They already released their big unit and it has the same efficiency as the little 500 water mid-tier from IceRiver. So in reality, that is zero threat because it does not even make sense to get that 3000 water. It makes sense to get the AE1 light. Okay, so that one to me is irrelevant. We're focused on Bitmain. And so a lot of people are also hodling ALEO. They're buying it right now in anticipation of ASIC pump, right? So realistically, though, for the big unit, as we've mentioned before, when it's the first unit of an immature network, that doesn't necessarily need to happen, right? Typically, we see ASIC pumps with the announcement or with one coming on or with the expectation of an announcement just to prop up what? To prop up the profitability. Okay, so typically we'll see that and they'll make the profitability look better, which we've seen time and time again. That's not something new. We even saw it with this one, right? Did it go up to 30 cents after that? Those announcements. The reason it doesn't have to happen with the big boy unit, though, is because it's already going to be incredibly profitable. They don't need to bump up the price just because of the level of density that it's going to have initially. Okay, so that's why just because we know it's coming doesn't mean it's going to get announced and they're going to try to prop up the price to make it look extremely profitable. It's already going to look extremely profitable even at ALEO's 20 cents price action. Okay, because for example, when IceRiver releases theirs, what's it going to be? Most likely, easiest way to think about it, you can multiply the AE1 light by 7, right? All of their big boy units we've seen consistently, they're 3500 waters, same chips as the other variants, right? So essentially you can multiply your 300 mega hash, multiply it by 7, giving you a total of what? About 2100 mega hash at about 3500 watts. Give or take, that's most likely what it's going to be. Give or take 5-10%, whatever. And this is the thing, even at ALEO's current price, your daily income would be about $128, right? So this is the reason to me they don't have to pump it. Obviously, they can pump in, they can double that thing, or even go 20-30%, whatever, it's going to look better. But to me, it's not necessarily a lock. Once profitability goes down on them, then sure, I can see them happening just because, again, some of the other ALEO ASICs, they are kind of struggling, right? For example, the AE boxes, and the AE box 2, it's down to $1.47 a day, so maybe we can see something to kind of pump those things up. But realistically, for the big boy units, it doesn't necessarily need to happen on the first gen. Once that unit comes out and it wrecks the hash rate and the profitability goes from this $120 down to $5 a day, then yes, they are going to have to pump the price if they want to do that, right? So just, you got to understand the dynamics and the optics of things. Understand, though, that when they do make that announcement, it's not going to be making $128 a day. That hash rate is going to get super wrecked. Okay, it went up, it doubled with just these little guys. We don't even have the A1 Lite yet. And just factor in that because of this price drop that's coming on this one, expect the hash rate to go up because this guy's going to get more appealing. But understand that once those big boy units come out, it's going to drop massively. So even though it's dropped down to about 20 a day, it's going to get to a point where it's going to go down to 10 a day, 5 a day, 2 a day, right? But again, even if it does go down to 2 a day, ALEO's price is at $2 a day, $4 a day. So you got to think of future returns, right? So if it does hit that $2 point, then even right now, we're mining 20 of these things. That'd be like making $40 a day retroactively, right? That's kind of the mindset with these things. That's how you kind of have to look at it. But overall, though, just keep in mind that these bigger units are inevitable. They are going to come. If you're interested in the AE0 or the AE1 Lite, factor these things in, right? Again, you're making a gamble on how long until those big boy units come out and wreak total havoc on the network, right? And when that does happen, we're going to have to see what ALEO's price does, right? Because again, if the hash rate goes up 5 to 10x and your rewards go down by that magnitude, even if ALEO goes to 60 cents, you're still going to get pretty wrecked, right? We're going to need something pretty substantial because as we've seen overall, like even if ALEO's price does go up, there's going to be immense sell pressure. There's just a lot of factors here. The other thing I do want to mention, as far as the timeline goes, just factor in the other big factor that it'll accelerate the hash rate is the pricing of the big boys. It's going to be extremely dependent on how greedy they get. So even if Bitmain were to announce their unit tomorrow, it's going to be extremely dependent on the price. Because if they come out with a price tag of like 30K, probably not going to sell too many units. And then if IceRiver a couple of weeks later comes out with their lower price point of like 25K, 22K, 20K, whatever, that's going to be more appealing. Most likely it's going to come farther down the road and it's just going to kind of kick the can down the road. What would not be good is if Bitmain comes in aggressive. If they come in next week and they announce their unit to ship in 2 weeks and it's going to be like $6,000 or something. Then at that point, then RIP to all those plans, right? Because it's going to be extremely appealing and it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility. Right, the overall trends, though, we've seen with the KS3, the KS5, the AL1, is for them to price in that 30K range because that does seem to be the price where they like to degen at. But it's not something that would be crazy because they have done something similar in the past. If you guys remember with the launch of the KA3, well, REKT, the gold shell units, wasn't just the efficiency of the unit. The unit was massively more efficient, but it was the price. The gold shell unit, their top of the line, their KD max, whatever, was like 25K. Bitmain came out with the KA3 at like 6K. Totally wrecking it. Right? So it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility. It's something that can happen. If we look at previous history, though, most recently, most likely not. Most likely they're going to go the greedy route. Maybe they've learned their lesson, though, because, again, they burned 3 gens of customers all kind of like back to back to back. Will it be the 4th time? We're going to have to wait and see. But most likely, I fully expect the announcement pretty much any time, right? It would not be surprising to see this thing in a few weeks. WDMS is in a couple of days. We do know it's extremely likely they're going to have a Hydro Bitcoin unit. What else they're going to have, we're going to have to wait and see, right? So just make sure you do fully understand that. Although it does look appealing now, look at the long game, right? Because even looking at, like, for example, the second batch of the A1 Lite, oh, it's down to $1,900. It's a little bit more appealing. Again, just an easy configuration in your head. We know that the big boy unit's going to be 7 of these guys, right? So do you think a fair price for a big unit is about $14,000? Still seems overpriced to me, right? So just consider these things, look at the scenarios. We'll kind of give an update. Realistically, the next big update is going to be the announcement of the bigger unit, right? Let me know in the comments though, guys. How are you guys doing? Did you guys order any of these things? Whether it was the gold shells. I know some of you guys, unfortunately, did get the gold shell units for whatever reason. Let me know though. Let me know how it's going. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.